Good morning, and thank you for joining us for TeamConnect quarterly webinar. My name is Regina Ide, and I am a Client Success Advisor here at Mitratech, and I'll be your presenter today. Before we jump into the actual presentation, I do have a couple of housekeeping items to review with you. First off are our poll questions. Periodically, you will see a poll question come up, and we really appreciate your answering these questions because it'll help us develop better webinars in the future and make sure that they meet the topics that you're looking for. The first question should be up on your screen now, and this is how did you hear about this webinar? The webinar will be recorded, and a follow-up document including a summary and some highlights of today's webinar, along with a link to the recording, will be sent out next week. And today we're going to be using TeamConnect 4.2 for all of the demonstrations and the slides. In the future, we'll be going to TeamConnect 5 and demonstrating strictly in that version. With the reporting, the thing to keep in mind between the two versions is they work very, very much the same. So you would see minimal, if any, differences between them. And that does it for the housekeeping items. So I'm going to go in and we will talk about our agenda, what we're going to cover today. The first thing is, where is the data located in TeamConnect and how do you get to it? I'm going to go through creating a basic report from the native reporting tool and doing this from scratch. We'll talk about scheduling reports so that they are generated automatically on a schedule and sent out by email to an individual or group of individuals. We'll take an existing report and copy and edit it as a shortcut to creating a report from scratch. There'll be some tips and tricks sprinkled throughout the presentation, and we have some Mitratech updates towards the end. And we will finish off with questions. That said, please submit your questions whenever you think of them today and submit them through the questions feature. So starting with the reporting, where is my data and how do I get to it in TeamConnect? And the short answer, you can get to it through the data warehouse. But then you're asking, what is the data warehouse? The data warehouse uses a set of automated scripts to take all of the detailed information from TeamConnect and put it in a more simplified format and then send it back to TeamConnect for the reporting. This will allow you to have a more straightforward reporting tool and better results. So how does the information get into the data warehouse? All of the system fields are included in the data warehouse, and any custom fields are included if, during the setup process, you include them in the data warehouse. For some reason, you don't turn this feature on when you're creating a new custom field. You can do it after the fact, but it does require several additional steps and involving a few other people in your process. So if I created a new custom field, let's say for diversity, about 2 years ago, and my attorney said, we don't need to report on it, we just need to track this information in the application. Come January, things have changed and now we need a report. If I only go in and change this to yes in the setup, the information is not going to show up on my reports. Only new information added to the system would show up. So there's some additional steps that your system administrator and the DBA will have to perform for you. If you want the field to show up in the global search, that will need to be indexed by your system administrator, and the DBA will have to stop and restart both the data warehouse and TeamConnect. So as a best practice, we suggest that anytime you add a new custom field, go ahead and include it in the data warehouse, and then you avoid any future problems with it. So we'll talk about creating reports from scratch. And the first step in creating any report for really any application is to gather all of your information and ask questions of your requester. What are they really looking for? What do they want the final report to look like? What information will it contain? So on. Then work backwards from that final result to determine what fields of information you need, what order you want them on, and go ahead and just sketch it out on a sheet of paper. Then when you have a rough idea of what you want to work with, it'll make your entire process much easier and smoother. You want to make sure that you contain all of the fields of information that you might need in that report, and then decide how do you want to sort the data and how do you want to display it. What type of chart do you want to use? Do you want it just in tabular format, or maybe in a bar chart or a pie chart? And we'll look at the different chart types in more detail in just a few minutes. Now you're ready to go into TeamConnect and start creating your new report. But before we actually do that in this presentation, I'd like to talk briefly about when you use searching and when you can use the native reporting tool. So when you need to search, or when you want to use the search feature, it's if you need real-time results. The data warehouse is updated on a schedule that is set by the system administrators, and that's going to vary with each company. It could be updated hourly. It could be an overnight process. Each company is going to be different. So if you made a change to a matter and then needed to immediately turn around and run a report on it, you wouldn't have that new information in the native reports. So you would use the searching in this case. If your desired results are a one-to-many relationship, for instance, one main assignee that has several matters, or one vendor with several different invoices. You would also use the searching if it's a single object reporting, meaning all of the data you're looking for is under matters or financials and so on. So when would I use the reporting tool? Use native reporting when you need a graphical result. You want a pretty pie chart or bars, some sort of graphics in your end result. You would like to have the results generated automatically on a set schedule and then sent to the users. If you have cross-object reporting, where you're combining information found in matters and invoices, for instance. Also, if you have formulas, you'll need to use the native reporting. And if you have a large report that's really pulling a significant amount of data, you may want to schedule that to run after hours so it doesn't impact any of your users. So now we're ready to actually go into TeamConnect and talk about creating a new report from scratch. I'm going to walk through the steps here with the slides, and then I'll go into TeamConnect and do a demo going into a little more detail on each of the fields. The report that I'm going to create is a report that's going to show all of the open matters by a main assignee and then sort them into the month that they were opened. So this will give us an idea of basically the workload and see if there are any trends in when the matters are being opened. The first thing that you would do is go into your reports from the global toolbar, and you'll see the reports are located in a series of folders and subfolders. You can add folders and rearrange this by drag and drop. If you wanted to add a new folder, click on the New Folder button and then complete the information. You can also apply security to your folders. A good practice is to take all of the out-of-the-box reports that come with TeamConnect and place them in a separate folder applying security. You want to prevent anyone from accidentally taking that report and overwriting it. Then take a copy of those reports and put them out for the general use. You can also keep your master reports of anything that you use on a regular basis and you don't want anybody else to take a chance of messing up for you and add some security to it. So that said, we'll hit the New button and we'll go in and start actually creating a report. The first screen that you'll get is a general information screen where you can put in your report name, the unique key, and this is only required if you are using the localization features where TeamConnect translates the languages, and then put in your description. And I would highly recommend that you use a good naming convention that is not too cryptic, and also include a very detailed description so your users will know exactly what this report will pull for them. That said, you would do a save and close and go on to the next screen. The next item that you're going to do is create a data series where you're going to pull this information. So you click on the New button, and then you'll receive a drop-down list. And you're going to pick out the major area where that information is coming from. In the report that we're creating right now, that would be disputes. So all the information is related to the main assignee and the matters and open dates. You can rename the data series. And if it is for localization and translation purposes, you need to add a unique key. You can have more than one data series for a matter. So again, clicking on the New button and filling out that information. The next thing that you're going to do is add your filter criteria. So after you have created your data series, that is going to dictate what information is in your field list for the filter criteria and for the results. So click on your filter criteria, and then you're going to drag and drop the fields of information over. In this example, I have the current phase. I just bring right on over. And then I can go in and look at the information in the filter criteria and edit it. Clicking on the pencil, it gives you your list of operators. In this case, the created on date is a date field, so everything on your operator list is going to be date related. Going down to the second example, this one is the net expense total, and all of your operators are related to numbers and calculations. After you have added that information, you can add parameters. Now, this will give your users an option to scale down the information even a little bit more. So in our case, we're going to add a parameter that's going to give the users a selection of main assignees when they first start to run the report. So again, you would click on the pencil for the filter criteria item, and you'll get your options on the sidebar. The first one you're going to do is click on the Use Parameter. It's going to give you a little green plus sign, and then you have a drop-down list. You'll add a name for this parameter, and there are no spaces in this name. You'll put the label. This is what your users will see, and those spaces are fine there. And then select your default value. In this case, I would select any. And then you hit Save. Now, this is the type of screen that the users will see when they log in to run a report, and it shows how your parameter works. Once they come in, they're going to select the default value, which main assignee do they want, and then they'll run the report. Going on with our report design here, the next step is going to be to select all of the results display. These are the items that you want to see in the end result in the tabular view of your report. Again, all of these fields that are available come from the data series that you selected early on, and it's a drag and drop process to bring these items over. If for some reason you don't see the list of fields when you go into the screen, just click on the little green down arrow and it will expand that list for you. A good practice is to always start with your object link. This will add a link into the tabular view of your report that takes you back to the main object. In this case, it would take you back to the matter information. So instead of just listing a matter name or number, it does give you a hyperlink. So take the fields that you're interested in, drag and drop them over to your desktop, and then you can rearrange or relabel them as you need to. One of the nice things that you can do with the relabeling, clicking on the pencil, is that you can change the label on the field, but you can also do a span column. And this will take the end result in the tabular display, and instead of putting a lengthy matter description in one narrow column, it's going to give it an entire row, so it'll span across all of the columns on your report. It gives you a display that's a little easier to use. Again, if you are using localization, it is only required if you are doing the conversion to another language, excuse me. Do you want to add security to your report? Do you want to have it just for a specific set of users or even an individual user? You would click on the security on the sidebar and then add in the information if you want it public or private and who has access to that report. Another good practice is when you are in the report creation process, keep it as private or limit the number of users that have access to it until you have it completely the way that you want it and you've tested it and it's ready to go out for publication. This prevents any misunderstandings and phone calls of, why doesn't my report work? After you've added your security, it's time to format your chart. So before we actually look at the screen in TeamConnect, I wanted to talk about the basic chart types that are available to you. The first one is a tabular chart, and this is basically a spreadsheet format. It is great for sorting your data and troubleshooting why your chart doesn't really look the way that you thought it would. The next one that we'll talk about are bar charts, and these are best to display a small amount of information over time and under some different circumstances or conditions. Column charts also are very good for a small amount of information over time and under different conditions. Pie charts are a great graphical display of a specific amount of information at a set point in time. The one thing to keep in mind with pie charts is that you don't want to overload them with too much information because then the slices of the pie become very narrow and it gets a little bit confusing. Line charts are great for looking at trends, and your area charts are great for cumulative totals over a specific time. So now we can actually go into the chart properties from the sidebar. You're clicking on chart, and the first thing you'll do is select the type of chart that you want to create. In this case, we have a column chart. Then you'll go in and how do you want to group the results? Do you want to see them by, in our case, we want to see them by month. And we're going to go into this whole screen a little bit more detail on the actual demonstration portion. You can add your chart values. This would be a record count of the number of matters in our case. And then you get into the chart properties where you can add your title for the chart, a subtitle, and format the different labels that were on it, where you want the legend to be, so on. Going down to the bottom, you have your data ranking. And this will tell you how you want your results displayed. Do you want to see all of the results in a tabular view or a more select group? Do you want to see, in our case, we'll be looking at the 5 months that have the most matters opened for a particular main assignee. So in this case, we would select the top, and we want the number 5. So we have the top 5 results. At that point, you can run your report. And if everything works the way that you want it to, you're going to get your report. Usually it does. But if for some reason you need to go in and look at the data, you want to see the tabular view or do some troubleshooting, you can toggle back and forth between both views using the View Results button. Another item on your final report I'd like to talk about is the current as of date. And this shows you when the data warehouse was refreshed the most recently. So again, we're going to go into TeamConnect and actually create this report during the live demo. Which product's here? I'll be right with you. Okay, you should be seeing TeamConnect on the screen now. And the first thing you do is go into reports. Here you can see how they are ordered into your folders and subfolders. The first thing you do is click on the New button. You'll add in your report name. I'm going to have my Open Disputes by main assignee. I don't need a unique key because I'm not using localization on this report. And then you want to put in a good description. I'm going to have my Open Disputes by main assignee displayed by the month. Point I can do, sorry about that, that was my mistake. I'm going to hit a Save and View, not a Save and Close. So I'm going to go back into my report, click on Properties, Now I can hit my Edit button. So I'm going to go into the data, and we'll add our data series. So for this report, all of the information we want to pull is going to be from disputes. So I'll just go scroll down and click Disputes. I can rename this. It's going to be Open Dispute. And click OK. Now we can add the fields that we want for the filter criteria. Clicking on the green arrow, I now have a list of all of the fields. So on this one, what we're going to want to do is first add our main assignee, the drag and drop feature, just right on over, and then we want to include the created on. I'm sorry, my mistake there. It should have said the current phase. A little ahead of myself there. So now that I have the fields over in my desktop, I can make some edits to them. Looking at the current phase, the first thing I'm going to do is change the operator. And what I want in this case is not, because I want every matter that is in a phase that is not closed. So I'm selecting the value of closed, and then it will show me every other phase for matters: open, appeal, reopen, intake, and so on. Going to the main assignee, I'm going to make some changes there, and this is where I'm going to add the perimeter in. Click on the Use Perimeter and the green plus sign. And now I can add my name to it without spaces, hopefully without typing errors, and then put in the label that the users will see. And select the default value, which I'm selecting any, save. So we have all of our filter criteria completed, and we'll go into the results display next, which is the next tab over. And again, you have your list of fields, and these tie back to the data series selected earlier. So the first thing that I always like to do is add my object link. Drag and drop, bring that over, and then bring in the rest of the fields that I want to see on my report. So I'd like to have a main assignee. I'm going to add a matter name. Opened on date. My default category. And I think I would like to have the matter description on there. That's going to come down under custom fields a little further down on my list. I have matter description. Now that I have all of the fields that I want to see on the report, I can rearrange the order and make some edits there. I really think that the matter description should be next to the matter name. I'm going to drag and drop right on over, click on the edit pencil, and on this field I'd like to span columns. So I don't want it all crunched into one narrow column. So I've spanned the columns, and I can apply and close. Now we can go down and apply some security to the report. I can make it public or private, select any users if I want to restrict the use of it, and save that. I'm not going to make any changes on this one. I'll keep it as public, but this is where you make those changes. Then we're going to go in and look at our chart information. I think I would like this one in a column chart. Now I can select how I want to group this information, and I want to do it on the open date. Then how do I want to sort that information, display it, excuse me. I'm going to do it by the month, and it will give me a record count by month. So let's say 10 records opened during the month. Going down, you can select your chart style. You can do basically a clustered or stacked. I'm going to keep it at clustered. And in your report name, you can put in a subtitle if you would like. Put in display by month. You can add category and value labels if you would like those to show up on your final report. decide where you would like the legend located. Go ahead and keep mine at the bottom. And if you want the information on the x-axis to wrap around or display differently, choose that. You have a vertical, slant, or a stagger. I'm going to go ahead and keep that on wrap. Decide if you want to show all results, or in our case, we're going to select the top, and then you can put in your number. I'll keep this one at 5. So now I can save and view, and click on my Run Report. And the first thing it's doing is showing me that I need to select a main assignee for this report. Then select Theme for my assignee and run the report. And we have our report. Again, you can go into the View Results if you'd like to see it in a tabular format. Clicking on it, you see now that all of the items are listed in a spreadsheet style. And you can see the matter description spans many columns instead of being all scrunched together. Get back to my chart, it's just a chart. And we're back to the beginning. Your current as of date shows that the data warehouse was refreshed on the 28th for this report. Going down a little further, I see who I've chosen as my main assignee. And if I wanted to rerun the report for another main assignee, I could change it right here and rerun that report. Let me get to someone I know has some data in here. And run the report. And we see that there are only 2 months of data to be displayed for Lori. And now you know how to create a brand new report from scratch. Go back into the presentation, go on to the next topic. The next thing that I want to talk about is scheduling reports. This is where you can have a report created that will be generated on a set schedule and sent out by email to a select group of users or an individual user. To schedule a report, you go into the report that you want to schedule, and you're going to click on Schedule from the sidebar, and it's going to give you this window to complete the information. The first information is, what do you want to name the schedule? Let's say Weekly Report of Open Matters. Going to go to the next one, which is going to show you how often you want the report generated. And it's a drop-down list, want daily, monthly, quarterly, and so on. The start date tells you when you want to start running the report. The recipient is the recipient list of who will receive this report. They can be an individual user, a group of users, but the keyword is they must be users in the application to get the reports. The next item is the subject line and the description as they will show up on your email. And then as the attachment type. Do you want it to go as an Excel or PDF format? And you're ready to send your reports. So now you know the complete process of how to create a report from scratch, or the long way. And I'm going to give you a shortcut and a little simpler way to create some reports. This would apply if you already have a report in the application that is similar to what your new requirements are. So instead of creating a brand new report, we're going to copy one and just do a few edits. Again, I'm going to walk through this with the PowerPoint slides, and then I'll go into TeamConnect and demo it for you. This report is going to be a report that shows all of the matters by vendor. I'm sorry, the matter count, including the vendor. And the report is currently run showing us disputes and transactions and the top 15 vendors that are billing to those, or excuse me, are associated with those matters. We want to take that a step further, and instead of just saying disputes, we want to limit it to bankruptcy disputes. And under transactions, we want to limit that to contracts and agreements. Besides that, the report is going to be very much the same. So we're going to copy the report instead of recreating it. So I've opened my original report, and you're going to click on Create a Copy. Then you'll get your window of information to complete it with the new name and description of your report, and then you're going to save and close. And I recommend that you close the record out completely and reopen it so that there is no chance of you overwriting your original report. Then you'll go into the new report and edit it. First thing you'll do is look at your data series and see, do you need to make any changes there? Edit those properties. Then you'll go in and look at your filter criteria and your results criteria. Then you can review the chart and see if everything is the way you would like it. You have a brand new report, much fewer steps involved. So let me do this a little slower and a little more detail in the actual demo. So I'm back in TeamConnect in my reports. And the original report that I want to make a copy of is my open matter count by vendor. And click that. It takes me right to the report. So I need to go back to the properties. I'm going to create a copy. So now I can rename my report. And I'm just going to name this one Demo so that I remember what I've done here. You can add any additional information that you would like in the description, and then you're going to save and close. And I've got an error. This report includes a unique key, so it's set up to do translations, and it needs to be a one-of-a-kind code. So I'm going to make this one one-of-a-kind and save again. And I'm back. So the next thing I'm going to do is edit, and I'm going to go into the data. First thing is one moment, please. Excuse me. I'm sorry about that. I pulled up the wrong report. So with the correct report selected, we're going to go in, select Properties, Edit. We're going to check your name and all here. We're going to go into the data series. And now I'm going to make the changes that I need to on the disputes. What I'm going to do is expand my fields. And I'm going to pull over default category. I'm sorry, I just completely lost my train of thought there. You could expand your dispute, and then it's under your system fields. My mistake. So I'm going to take my category, bring it on over. Now that I have it there, I can edit it and select bankruptcy. And so now I'm going to go back into disputes and do the same thing. I'm going to expand the fields out first, click on transaction. Again, my mistake. I apologize. I'm in a little trouble this morning. And we're going to go into our default category. Editing that so that we're going to select contracts and agreements. So now that I have my contracts and agreements, I can go in and look at my results display to see if I need to make any changes there. And I think I'm good to go. I'm going to apply and close those changes. So on this report, I'd like to apply a schedule. clicking on the schedule, and I'm going to put in a new schedule and name the schedule. So I'll just put, we'll just call this a weekly report. I'm going to have it come out on a weekly basis, and I'm going to go ahead and have it start today. I can select my users and put in a description if need be, and how I want that report sent. If I really don't want to take a chance on sending this to Albert, I'm going to just cancel these changes and go back. So now I can look at my chart and decide if I need to make any changes there. I've selected a pie chart, do a record count by the vendor. Still like to group it by the vendor. Going down in the chart style, you can leave the report style to a 2D pie chart. Change the chart name or subtitle if you need to in any of the values. And again, we're going to just show the top 15 results. So I can save and close. And it runs my report. And we have a little different report, much fewer transactions, list of vendors for transactions than we had before. And that's all there is to creating a report using the copy and edit feature. Going back to the presentation now, just going to do a quick review of the tips and tricks that we've covered today. We've talked about when to use searching for real-time results, a one-to-many relationship, or single object reporting, when to use reporting for graphical results, reports that are auto-generated and sent out on a schedule, cross-object reporting, large amounts of data that you might want to report after hours, and the scheduled reports. The current as of button on your reports shows you when the data warehouse was actually last updated to your current information. We talked about using the span columns for a large amount of data like a matter description on a report. Talked about the various chart types, using a tabular chart for data analysis and troubleshooting, bar and column charts for a specific amount of data or for a specific time frame, pie charts for good visuals and a limited amount of data at a specific time, line charts for trend analysis, and area charts for cumulative totals over a specific period of time. We talked about some report mapping, doing a lot of your questions and researching on how you want the report to look before you actually go into TeamConnect. So what we've covered today, we covered where the data is stored. How do you get to it and maintain the data warehouse? Creating a new report from scratch. Adding security to your reports and the report folders. Scheduling a report to run on a schedule and automatically be delivered. Copying and editing a report. And the tips and tricks. So now we're down to the questions segment. So please submit your your questions in the questions feature, and we will go through those. Any questions that I don't get a chance to answer during the presentation, I will reply to you by email, so you will get answers to all of your questions. And while you're submitting those questions, you have a couple of other things that I'd like to review. We have some upcoming events with TeamConnect. And the first one is our webinar schedule. We have a new and improved webinar schedule. We are now offering an operational webinar first in each quarter, and this will be across all of the products. It is not TeamConnect specific, but will cover all of the matter management products. And it will be more general and information of how operationally things are handled in different locations. Our first one is a client-led discussion, and it will be on communicating with your firms and alternative fee agreements. Each operational webinar will then be followed by a product-specific webinar. So our next TeamConnect webinar will be in August, and this will be the CSM rules and billing rate rules and how do you use them to maintain and hopefully reduce your outside counsel billing. The next topic I'd like to talk about is Interact. This is our annual conference. It is coming up in September in Scottsdale, Arizona. And the registration, the early bird registration, has been extended through July 14th. If you'd like more information on the Interact, you can go to our website shown on the slide. You can also get an idea of the topics that we'll be talking about and what the sessions will be. There is a portal there for you to suggest any topics that you would like to see us cover that we may not have on the schedule yet. And also, if you would like to be a presenter during your Interact, there's a portion there for you to fill out and submit to us. The final poll questions will be coming your way in just a moment. And the first one is another new feature that we're offering. This is a series of how-to videos that will be in the client portal. They are short, single-subject how-to videos. They are based on the base product, so they will not include any customizations or your business processes, but will help the end user with an individual topic. We would like to get your opinion on what topics you would like to see included in these how-to videos. A few of our first thoughts are how to approve an invoice, how to mass edit from a list page, how to use the custom search features, and how to run a report. If there is something that you think would make a great how-to video and is not on this list, please submit that to us through the questions. The final poll question we have for you was, how beneficial was this webinar? We'd like you to grade that on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being the most beneficial. And that brings us down to our question. 1 second here, and I have questions for you. First question I have here, is there a way to schedule a report so that it saves the report locally rather than sending it out via an email? No, we can't do it that way, but the report could be placed on the dashboards so the individuals could see them at any time they need to. Another question that I have here, can we create a report just for the data without any graphs or charts? And yes, that would be the tabular view of your report. And we talked about that using the chart view report toggle button there on the report results. Another question, is the data warehouse a separate module or is it part of TeamConnect? It is a separate module, and if you need more information on that, please contact me and we'll discuss that. What happens if someone makes a change to the report template? Is it correct that you can save over the default report of an out-of-the-box report? And yes, it is true, you could do that. That's why we suggest that you take those out-of-the-box reports and any of your master reports that you create and put them in a separate folder, applying some security to them, so that if the copy that's placed out for the users does get overwritten for some reason, you still have the master one to pull back to. Another question that I have here is, can all users create their own reports? And if the system administrator has granted the proper permissions, yes, any user could do their report. Okay, let's see here. Got a couple more that have come in. Pardon me. Is there a way to display the data warehouse update date on the main screen of the reports instead of on the report as it is? And no, that is not available right now. but your system administrator should be able to give you the schedule of how often the data warehouse refreshes so that you know that going into when you're running the report. I think I just have one final question here that has come in. And is there a way to have a report sent on a specific trigger so that it looks like if you have scheduled a report, but there are no updates or information, that report could not be sent out? And no, not at this time. The scheduled reports will go out on that schedule, whether they're blank or have new information in them. I'll just wait a couple of seconds here to see if there are any more questions that come in. I think that is it for today. You will be seeing a summary document with the highlights of the webinar and a link to the recording of this webinar in the next week. Thank you very much for attending today, and hope you have a great rest of the day.